All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to create our time period acronyms to get today together. And this is actually what you are going to submit for attendance credit today. So you have to do this. You need 3 pieces of paper. You need 3 different colors of writing utensils if you've got them. And then what I want you to do is sometimes I'll give you vocab terms, copy those word for word the way I do them. Other times I'll say, okay, I'm giving you like an idea here. Try to put this in your own words instead of using my exact words, okay? I am going to share my time period acronyms with you. When they're completed, you'll get to see them. And I'll show them to you as we're working. But you want to make sure that you're taking measures to avoid plagiarism. So it's okay to include some stuff in your own words as we make these acronyms too, all right? So first off, we are not going to create a time period acronym for binder. Anything before 1200, it's not going to be on the test, certainly not on this modified one. In fact, my prediction is that the DBQ's prompt will not include in its date range 1200 to 1450. I think the earliest the DBQ actually starts is 1450, so that 12 to 1450 can be used as contextualization. So I definitely don't think anything before 1200 is really going to get you. The only thing I'm going to cover from this acronym in our review lessons to come in the future is a review of major world religions. That's it. That's it. So for right now, don't worry about binder at all, because I don't think we need to have this with us when we're taking the exam. We do, however, need to have timbers. Okay. So take your first piece of paper. Okay. And the first color you're going to work with. Oh, did I remember to set my timer? I did not. I'm really trying to make sure I keep these videos in chunks so that I don't go too long and then have to redo it, because YouTube won't take over 15 minutes from us with our free accounts. Okay, across the top, right, post-classical era, or at least post-classical, that would work too. And give us the official College Board dates for it, 1200 to 1450 CE. Okay, so there's my heading for this first, can you see it? Yeah, for this first page, okay? Then down the center, I'm gonna write out timbers, and I wanna take up all of the space because we have a lot of things we wanna write. So I want to really spread my letters out. I have like a stray, ugly, goofy line, but I've spread timbers out quite a bit on the paper, okay? So let's start with the T. My first T is Trans-Saharan trade. So I'm going to write that on one side of the acronym, and I'm going to write Silk Road trade on the other side of the T in the acronym. Let me show you what that's going to look like. Okay. So far you should look identical to me. Okay. Now, in the interest of saving space, I'm going to switch to a pen that's a little skinnier than that marker. And let's go ahead and write some vocabulary words or some key ideas that we need to know about each of these trade routes. So under Trans-Saharan trade, my first bullet point is going to be Africa, because that's where it's located. And then I'm going to write a little equal sign, and I'm going to write down the 2 empires that were located in Trans-Saharan West Africa that facilitated Trans-Saharan trade. And those would be Mali and Songhai. So you can copy that word for word. Those are vocab terms. The popular trade goods that people were drawn to this area for would be gold. I'm going to write that in all caps because that's the big one. And also salt, which is a food preservative. Okay, so I'm going to write down those 2 items under Trans-Saharan trade as well. I know if I'm going to cross the Sahara Desert, I need an animal who can go a long time with not a lot of water. So I'm going to write camel caravans, because that is my mode of transportation. And then finally, I'm going to write that Islam diffused to local elites. If you want, you could write down Mansa Musa. He is that famous king from Mali who was also a Muslim, and he travels from Timbuktu, the capital city of Mali, all the way to Mecca to go on pilgrimage. And he visits different cities along the way as he goes. He builds mosques as he goes so that he can practice, he can worship Islam as he travels. And these mosques that he builds, they show us cultural syncretism because we see traditional African architecture mixed with the Middle Eastern religion of Islam. He gets to Egypt. He loves Egypt so much that he spends so much gold that he like destroys their economy. He creates all this inflation by flooding the market with a bunch of new currency. But I mean, he sure does make a name for himself because he's probably like the richest guy to ever have lived. So that's really cool. Let's go over to the Silk Road side. My first bullet point here is going to be Eurasia because that's where it's located. You go ahead and write that down. 2, Europe plus Asia is Eurasia. The goods that are being traded here are luxury goods. We will review trade routes here pretty soon. So I'll show you again a list of different goods from different regions to kind of hopefully trigger your memory of what kind of stuff we're talking about here. Again, I'm going to see a lot of camel caravans because even if we don't have the Sahara Desert across Eurasia, there are big deserts there. And so camel caravans are just a great way to travel. I also want you to write, I'm writing camel caravans plus Mongol protection. I think it's important for us to remember that the peak years, the peak traffic of Silk Road trade came when the Mongol Empire controlled the Silk Road. Because that is, there you can see it. Not because they were super nice, but because they wanted to tax the revenue merchants could make on a safe and secure Silk Road. We see a lot of religions diffused on the Silk Road. So I'm just going to write religions diffused. And then I'm going to write in parentheses Buddhism and Islam because they appear to be the most popular religions that are moved across the Silk Road. Both are universalizing religions. So we see a lot of movement from those religions. Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, this is what you should have so far. Okay, check it out. Now think about it. You're working on this DBQ. You've got a prompt that's like 1450 to 1900. You know you need to do contextualization from before 1450. Now I can really quickly look at this and say, oh, well, my prompt happens to be about trade. Let me write about trade before 1450 for my context, okay? So that's why we're doing this. This is just a quick and easy, like, oh yeah, I know this stuff. How are we doing on time? Okay. Let's go ahead and do I. So on one side of your acronym, I want you to write out Indian Ocean trade. And the other side, I want you to write out Islam. Okay. All right. Indian Ocean trade. Where is this located? Obviously, the Indian Ocean. So I'm going to write maritime trade connecting East Africa, the Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and China. Okay, there's that list again if you want to see it. I know that monsoon winds were really important in scheduling your travel, and they led to diasporic merchant communities. Okay. And of course, these diasporic, these scattered merchant communities would diffuse their personal culture to the cities they visited for trade. Okay. We're going to review Indian Ocean trade in greater detail in the coming days. So let's try to keep that condensed. Let's go ahead and go to the other side to Islam. Let's write some information there. Okay, so this is an Abrahamic, monotheistic religion. Oh, it's also universal. And that just means it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, how old you are, how rich you are, what gender you are, you can convert to this religion and equally have access to salvation, no matter your background. Okay. It's founded by the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century CE in the Arabian Peninsula. And then I'm going to write, it loves merchants and commerce, or you could say and trade. And that is because you'll remember Muhammad himself was a very successful, well-respected, trustworthy merchant before he founded Islam. And it's that strong reputation that he has as someone you could trust that is able to help him win so many converts as he begins teaching about this new religion. The other thing I want to put here, though, is that Islam is not just a religion, but after 1200, it's the basis of the largest government in the Middle East, the Abbasid Caliphate. Trying to spell that wrong on my paper, which was around from the 700s until the Mongols bring the fall of the Abbasid Caliphate in the 1200s. Okay. And so that's that extra bullet point I'm going to add there for you. And I think that's really, really good. We will review the Abbasid Caliphate in greater detail in the coming weeks. All right, we are ready for our M's. And so let's start with the Mongols on one side. Going to be hard not to get carried away with them, right? And then on the other side, I want you to go ahead and write Mali again, and then skip a couple lines and write Maya. We won't need to put as much information on the two of them as we will for the Mongols. So that'll be good.